Base Luffy. Even before unlocking any of his gear transformations, Monkey D. Luffy's base form was a force to be reckoned with. Luffy ate the Gomu Gomu no Mi Devil Fruit, which was later revealed to be the Hito Hito no Mi model, Nika. This fruit allows his body to have rubber-like properties. Luffy's powers make him immune to electric attacks and most blunt force damage, but he's vulnerable to attacks involving sharp objects or weapons like swords and spears. Thanks to his rubber devil fruit abilities, he can stretch his body as much as he wants. He uses this elasticity to speed up parts or his entire body, allowing him to deliver powerful punches, kicks, headbutts, and many other creative attacks. However, like anyone who eats a devil fruit, Luffy can't swim. If he's underwater or comes into contact with Sea-Prism Stone, he loses all his strength and becomes unable to move. Water Luffy. Water Luffy is a form Luffy uses during his battle with Crocodile in the Alabasta arc of One Piece. In this form, Luffy uses water to counter Crocodile's sand-based powers. By soaking himself in water, he can successfully hit Crocodile, who normally turns into sand to avoid taking damage. This form is both clever and funny, as Luffy carries a barrel of water with him and even drinks it to stay hydrated during the fight. However, Water Luffy doesn't have any special techniques linked to it, and it's only used during this arc. Despite his efforts, Water Luffy isn't enough to defeat Crocodile, and Luffy has to come up with another strategy to win. This form is simply a creative and temporary solution that works specifically against Sir Crocodile. Afro Luffy. Afro Luffy is a form that appears in the Davy Backfight arc of One Piece. This form is created when Luffy takes part in a boxing match against Foxy, the captain of the Foxy Pirates. To prepare for the fight, Usopp gives Luffy a wig with an afro and a pair of boxing gloves, believing the afro will bring Luffy strength and good luck. This new look not only gives Luffy a funny appearance, but also boosts his fighting spirit. Usopp even believes the afro can help Luffy unlock his hidden power. But it's mostly just for laughs. Nightmare Luffy. Nightmare Luffy is a special form of Monkey D. Luffy that appears in the Thriller Bark arc of One Piece. During the battle at Thriller Bark, Luffy struggles against Oars and Moria. To give him enough strength to defeat his enemies, the rolling pirates implant their shadows into Luffy's body. This process transforms him into Nightmare Luffy with a drastically changed appearance, a much larger body, blue skin, and dark rings around his eyes. Nightmare Luffy is stronger than Luffy's normal form. By absorbing 100 shadows, he gains immense physical strength, incredible speed, and superior combat skills. One of his standout abilities in this form is swordsmanship. Even though Luffy doesn't normally fight with swords, he can easily cut through trees and deal massive damage to his enemies. During the fight with Oars, Nightmare Luffy shows his power by defeating the giant zombie. Using his physical strength, he lands powerful punches that severely injure Oars. Gear 2. Gear 2 was first seen during the Enies Lobby arc. Luffy increases the speed of his blood flow, and thanks to the rubbery nature of his blood vessels and organs, his body can handle the pressure. This allows more oxygen and nutrients to be pumped throughout his body. Gear 2 greatly enhances Luffy's physical abilities, letting him move faster than someone using Soru and break through the defensive power of Tekai. When this technique is activated, Luffy's metabolism speeds up so much that his sweat evaporates quickly, making his body appear to steam. In the anime, his skin turns a shiny light pink color due to the increased blood flow. At first, Luffy could only use Gear 2 for a short time because the rapid nutrient consumption would quickly exhaust his body. The increased blood flow becomes ineffective without nutrients, meaning this power-up also leaves him weaker and slower after prolonged use. At first, Luffy could only use Gear 2 for a short period because the rapid nutrient consumption quickly drained his body. Increased blood flow would be useless without enough nutrients, so this power-up came with the drawback of reducing his strength and speed after extended use. For this reason, as Robin pointed out, Gear 2 takes a toll on Luffy's vitality and significantly increases the chances of him having a much shorter lifespan since it pushes his body to exhaustion. After Gear 2 wears off, Luffy can recover quickly by replenishing his body with nutrients, usually by eating meat. During the Impel Down arc, Luffy demonstrated a more efficient use of Gear 2 without suffering the same exhaustion as he did in his fight with Rob Lucci. He could activate this technique in short bursts to conserve his energy and power for longer battles. This might be due to his mastery of the form, his determination to save Ace, and the large amount of food he ate in Nukama Land at Impel Down. By combining Haki with Gear 2, Luffy can unleash punches so fast and powerful that his fists ignite, creating a move he calls Red Hawk. By the time of the Onigashima raid, his Red Hawk became so strong that it forced Kaido, one of the world's strongest pirates, with an almost indestructible body, to dodge the attack. Gear 3. Gear 3 is a technique where Luffy inflates the bones of a specific body part with air, increasing its size to boost its power. This technique was first hinted at during the climax of Luffy's battle with Blueno, and was first used, though not shown, when Luffy broke down a steel door at Eni's lobby. It was fully revealed during Luffy's fight with Rob Lucci. To activate Gear 3, Luffy bites into the joint of his thumb to create a small opening and blows air directly into his bones. This causes his hand and part of his arm to inflate and grow massively in size. He can move the air throughout his body, using his torso as a central point to direct it into different limbs. When using this technique, the inflated limb can become as large as, or even bigger than, a giant's limb, possibly resembling the size of the ancient giant oars. This technique gives Luffy's limbs more mass and a larger surface area, allowing him to deliver incredibly powerful attacks. However, the downside is that the increased size of his limbs reduces his mobility, making it harder for him to move quickly. This can be a disadvantage when facing fast and agile opponents. Before the time skip, using Gear 3 made it hard for Luffy to move properly because his gigantic limbs were too bulky. This made it risky to use against fast-moving opponents like Rob Lucci or in tight spaces, as it left him open to attacks. Because of this, Luffy would usually activate Gear 3 only against large, slow-moving enemies. He often used Gear 3 for powerful mid-air attacks, aiming to strike from above where nothing could block his moves. To exit Gear 3, Luffy would exhale forcefully, which sometimes caused him to be pushed backward. After the time skip, Luffy has gotten better at using Gear 3, just like with Gear 2. Before the time skip, Gear 3 would make most of Luffy's arm huge, slowing down his attacks, but making them very powerful. However, after 2 years, Luffy can now control where the air is stored in his limbs. Instead of the air being spread throughout his whole arm, it gathers behind his fist at the wrist, making only his fist grow large. This allows the rest of his arm to stay the same, so he can stretch it and move much faster than before. Luffy showed this ability when he enlarged his fist inside a Yarukiman bubble, which had limited air. He quickly enlarged his fist while fighting the Kraken, and used armament Haki to make his giant arm strong enough to defeat the sea monster. Luffy has also overcome the issue he had before, where his body would shrink after using Gear 3. Now, he can use Gomu Gomu no Elephant Gatling on Noah for a long time without shrinking, and he can control how big he wants his limbs to get. Gear 4. Gear 4 is a transformation technique that combines the power of the Gomu Gomu no Mi and Haki. It has different forms that improve the user's defense, speed, and strength beyond their usual limits. Luffy first used it in his fight against Don Quixote do Flamingo. He developed Gear 4 during his training on Rusukaina. Luffy uses armament Haki to coat his arms before biting into his forearm. Just like when activating Gear 3, he blows a large amount of air into his body, but this time, he inflates his muscles and spreads the air throughout his body, with more focus on his upper half. He also gains a tattoo during this transformation. If Luffy is interrupted while blowing air, his arm will slowly deflate. While using Gear 4, Luffy coats his arms, legs, and torso with armament Haki, causing them to turn black from the hardened Haki. He also grows taller, reaching about 4 meters in height. Like in Gear 2, Luffy continuously emits steam. The combination of his rubbery body and compressed muscles in Gear 4 adds explosive power to his attacks and greatly improves his defense, far surpassing what he can achieve in Gear 2 or Gear 3. Depending on the situation, Luffy can change the form of Gear 4. In Gear 4, Luffy's strength and speed are increased so much that he can defeat powerful opponents like Warlord Don Quixote, Doflamingo, and Charlotte Katakuri, who is the second strongest member of an Emperor's crew. This is a major improvement, as Gear 2 lacked the power, and Gear 3 lacked the speed to be effective in these fights. Gear 4 has 3 different forms. Bound Man. In the Bound Man form, Luffy's body grows much larger, with his arms, upper torso, and legs covered in armament haki. As a result, he can't stand still and ends up bouncing around. However, during his fight with Kaido on Onigashima, Luffy was able to stay still and even run. Like Gear 2, Bound Man seems to use principles from Rakushiki. It gives Luffy high-speed movement like Soru and the ability to push off the air, similar to Geppo. This form is well suited for his body's elasticity, as Luffy can not only bounce off the air, but also deflect attacks using his own body. His body has also become strong enough to block cutting attacks head-on. After Luffy uses an attack and lands, he has trouble controlling his landing due to his stretched-out body, and he bounces like a ball in a funny way until he either slows down or regains control to start flying again. While Luffy has some increased resistance to cutting attacks in Gear 5, if an opponent with a bladed weapon has armament haki that matches or is stronger than Luffy's, they can easily cut through his coated arms. Similarly, Luffy's near immunity to blunt force attacks isn't perfect. If an opponent has powerful enough haki along with great physical strength, they can break through Luffy's rubbery defense and hurt him. The defensive abilities of this form can also be beaten by an attack with overwhelming power. For example, when Luffy attacked Kaido, Kaido countered with his Kanabo and sent Luffy flying with one hit, knocking him unconscious instead of having Luffy bounce away. Additionally, Luffy's attacks in this form were initially not strong enough to hurt Kaido, who has incredible durability. Despite taking a barrage of Luffy's powerful strikes, Kaido remained unaffected. Tank Man. The basic form of Tank Man is not fully known because it was only used after Luffy ate so many of Cracker's biscuits that he became completely full and switched to his Manpuku version form. Due to the increased metabolism from Gear 4, Luffy can only stay in the Tankman form for a short period. After defeating Cracker, he was able to quickly burn off the large amount of biscuits he ate. In this form, Luffy's arms puff up a little, and most of the air fills his torso, with haki covering his forearms and lower torso. His durability also increases a lot in Tank Man, as he was able to block and deflect a piercing attack from Charlotte Cracker. This is a big improvement since Cracker was able to deeply cut Luffy's arm when he was in Bound Man. Snake Man. Unlike his other Gear 4 forms, Luffy doesn't grow much bigger in this one. His forearms, legs, and upper torso only get a little larger, while the rest of his body stays the same size. The haki coverage is more limited, as it doesn't reach his shoulders or upper body. Luffy's hair changes to look like flames, standing up and growing longer. Instead of steam, this form releases a mixture of steam and fire, which drapes over his shoulders like a scarf. His fists also flex in a different way, with the knuckles sticking out, similar to a leopard's fist. In this form, Luffy gets a big boost in speed and the ability to use Python to change the direction of his attacks, something he also does in his Bound Man form. However, Snake Man allows his attacks to get faster and stronger the longer they go, helping Luffy keep up the pressure on opponents who can dodge. He can also make his attacks more powerful and faster until he lands a hit. This form also gives him the ability to easily attack any part of his opponent's body. This form is designed to fight fast opponents who are good at dodging, and it requires Luffy to use his enhanced observation haki to turn his punches into semi-homing attacks. It also allows him to jump to decent heights, as seen when he leaped out of a chasm in the mirror world. However, since his body doesn't inflate in this form, his defense is much weaker compared to Bound Man and Tankman. For example, when Katakuri threw him into structures, he took the impact like usual instead of bouncing, as he would in Bound Man. Also, blunt attacks affect him normally, rather than bouncing off like in his other forms. Gear 5. Gear 5 is the awakened form of the Hito Hito no Mi model, Nika. This form strengthens Luffy's rubber body and grants him the ability to control and change his surroundings, similar to the awakening of a paramecia fruit. Luffy unlocked this power during his final fight with Kaido on Onigashima. When the Gomu Gomu no Mi, now known as the Hito Hito no Mi model, Nika, awakens, Luffy's rubber body becomes even stronger and more flexible, giving him the freedom to fight in any way he wants. This is why Luffy is referred to as the Warrior of Liberation, bringing joy and freedom to those around him. The power is said to be the most ridiculous power in the world. In this form, Luffy's heartbeat follows a musical rhythm, called the Drums of Liberation, as described by Zunisha. His hair and clothes, except for his straw hat, sash, and sandals, turn white. His eyes glow with red, ring-like pupils, and white clouds float around his neck, similar to the steam clouds in Gear 4. His eyebrows also become swirled and billowing. Gear 5 changes his outfit to his usual pants and sandals, similar to how Zoan transformations remove clothing. His outfit returns to normal when Gear 5 deactivates. When Luffy activates Gear 5 or stays in this form for a long time, he radiates a joyful and infectious energy, making even tough enemies feel a sense of fun during their battles. He laughs more, feels light, and becomes highly creative. The power of the awakened Hito Hito no Mi, model Nika, seems to be all about freedom. It not only allows the user to fight in any way they want, but Luffy himself describes Gear 5 as a state where he is completely free. Jewelry. Bonnie's imitation of Gear 5 is based on her ability to imagine herself experiencing ultimate freedom. As an awakened mythical Zoan, which is based on a god, Gear 5 grants Luffy incredible strength, speed, and durability that surpass most Zoan powers, even the awakened ones. His abilities were strong enough for him to fight Kaido, a powerful emperor enhanced by the mythical devil, Fruit Wo no Mi model, Seiryu, on almost equal terms. Luffy's strength and speed were so great that he easily overpowered Rob Lucci's awakened Zoan form. His durability was also remarkable. Even after taking a direct hit from Kaido's Bolo Breath, Luffy emerged with only minimal damage, despite his body looking affected. Despite how powerful this form is, Luffy struggles to maintain it, because it drains a lot of energy, causing him to look like he has aged many years, and feel extremely tired and weak after using it. However, these effects will eventually go away on their own after some time. Luffy can quickly regain his energy by eating a lot of food after using Gear 5. Also, unlike paramecia awakenings, Zoan awakenings like Gear 5 come with the risk of the Sun God, Nika's nature, taking over Luffy's mind. Additionally, Luffy is still vulnerable to cutting attacks. Alright, that's all for this episode. If you want me to make a video about any other anime or a specific character, just leave a comment below.